Welcome to Real Careers, Real Talk, a partnership between the Kalamazoo Public Schools and Kalamazoo RESA. My name is Lori Batesy, and I'm a career coach with Kalamazoo RESA and primarily work with Kalamazoo Public Schools. Our goal with Real Careers, Real Talk is to help introduce you to different work and careers right here in Kalamazoo. Today, we're talking with Churu Yun, a product designer at Argenta Park. Hi, Churu.
Hi.
So, as I was learning a little bit about you before this interview, I heard that you have a pretty cool Kalamazoo Public School connection story. I think we should start with that.
Okay, sounds great. I went to Kalamazoo Central, so Kalamazoo is my hometown. I didn't get the best grades in high school. I was always told, you seem like you should be doing really well, and I just struggled. And I think my junior year, I was in an art class, and someone came in. They weren't a student; they were probably a teacher, and they were walking by, and they caught a glimpse of my drawing, and they said, "Hey, you should come down to this other classroom and check out this other class that's down the hall. I think you might be interested in learning about it." It turned out to be a EFE, education or EFE. You guys know what that is, a commercial design classroom, and the teacher there, convinced me to take her class for my senior year. So sign up for her classes for my senior year, and upon kind of entering the classroom, I just noticed actually quite a big, difference between that classroom and your usual art class that had drafting tables and the computers, and I don't know, the kids seemed to be working on independent projects that were really interesting, and that really just caught my interest, and I wanted to be part of that. So and then I took EFE my senior year, and in fact I think every one of my classes was an EFE course in that classroom. Her name was Candace Brown. So I signed up for commercial design. I think it was advanced photography. Did an independent study block with her, and that really kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of possibilities on being a creative person and not having to worry that there's a place in society for someone like me. That I could maybe perhaps do something with creativity or being a creative person. So that kind of set the course of just giving me an understanding that there are opportunities for creative people, and it's impacted my life in a drastic way, and as such that I am now a product designer, a commercial designer, and I'm in the field of being a creative person professionally.
Since you mentioned your job title, a product designer, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. So, people ask me, "Hey, what do you do?" And I say, "I'm a designer." And the follow-up to that is like, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean, like a graphic designer or like a web designer?" And there's I have to say, no, actually, it's a little more than that. I design products. And what we mean by products, like take a look around you. You're surrounded by things, okay? Whether it's from the shoes on your feet to the phone in your hand, and even the software inside that phone. There are people that are in charge of designing those things or making those things a reality, and every aspect of that too. There's a lot of things being created, and what a product designer does is the person that works with perhaps like engineers and business people and marketers on making something, creating something that people use, and whether it's things that they use to help them in their jobs or to live their life, whether it's a tool, whether it's something novel. There's someone like me that's figuring out, well, what does it need to be And that's actually a really big question. Everything from what does it need to feel like, look like, behave like. Um, Someone like me actually defines that, and there's a lot of skills that I use to help me define those things and communicate to people that are going to be making those things, that it is a good idea and that it is worthwhile. In my career, I've designed for all kinds of things: cars, phones, apps. Let's see, I mean, planes, you name it. I guess one thing that one project that I was, I'm pretty proud of is being part of a team that kind of redesigned how what an inside of a car might have to be like to. I guess the problem is that right now they're putting lots of touch screens inside cars, and so a few years ago we worked with a car maker to see if we can make that better, because the problem with touchscreens inside cars is that they require a lot of attention and they might be dangerous for driving. So if you really wanted to improve safety inside cars, you probably don't want to put too many distracting things inside cars. So what we did was, we kind of reinvented how you might interact with a infotainment system, or the computers inside cars, so that you can still enjoy music and connect with people, go where you need to go through GPS, all of that, without having to physically touch a screen. You can, and they've built that, and now you can see it, in real life, where lots of people are using it, and hopefully it's helping them be safer on the road. And sometimes, it's projects that require us to think about things that doesn't even exist yet, and so a lot of the times we have to live a little bit in the future, not so far in the future that it's fiction, and that it's fiction that we have to come out that can be made real. And so, we're talking about cars. We were asked by, we worked with a company to think about how an autonomous vehicle or self-driving car would look like and feel like, and how would you drive one if there were no steering wheels or gas pedals. So we had to pull out all the stops on trying to figure out if and it is going to be eventually the case, when self-driving cars become a reality, like what could it look like, and how would it actually work. So those are some of the things that we have to do as product designers, and we work with lots of different people, like engineers and strategists and researchers and things, and people of all sorts of backgrounds, to have a really informed idea on what it could be.
It's something I hear that you're saying now too, is you might have to problem solve and critically think about things that don't even exist yet, right? And that's something that we talk to our students about, is you might be preparing right now for a career that doesn't even exist yet. So how are those kind of common skills, like problem solving, critical thinking, not even specific to your career as design, but general skills, how do those impact what you do?
Yeah, well, there's design is a really exciting field right now, because it's growing and changing based on the overall, I guess, evolution of technology, the things that we know how to do as human beings, as societies. So not too long ago, we didn't have these touch screens that were in our pockets, and really powerful computers that are so small that you could pretty much put it into anything, or the internet. This method of sending data from one place to another without cords. And so all of the advancements that's happening in technology is really allowing essentially the creative people to mold technology in really interesting ways. One of the things that is super fascinating for me is there are people called interaction designers, and their job is to, not perhaps design how things look, but their job is to design how things behave, and how people might interact with things. And in the past, you may have had an engineer, and their job is to, build the technology and figure out how it works. And what's been, really growing as a field is the people that have to now connect that technology to how people want to use it, or how people need it to be so that it's easy to use. And so, it's a pretty new field in regards to, it's always existed, like if you have an invention, you need to be able to use it. There's buttons and you can turn it on and switch modes. But nowadays it's connected to phones, it's connected to multiple platforms and digital profiles, and, and you can access them, in all sorts of ways. And so, there's a specialized field for people that have to kind of, think about, okay, this is what the technology does and could provide. And so how do people, use it in a way that it's not really overwhelming or complex? And so, their job is to really think deeply about and empathize with real people, people that, don't have the time to go and get training to use technology. And so their job is to really be, less about learning how to code or, electrically engineer something. Their job is to really think about, okay, we have people that can do that, but how do we get them to build it in a way that someone, young or old, or, someone who's busy, might be able to use it in simple ways. That's a whole field in itself that's growing. And so, if you think about, the training you'd have to get into that field, like it still kind of doesn't exist. I think some schools are starting to, develop those programs, train those people to learn how to do that for a living. But, early on, when I was younger, and that was a brand new sort of field, the people that were doing that job had really different backgrounds, and they didn't really necessarily go to school for it. But here they are actually doing that job without a particular degree for it. So I think what's important is that, if you're really good at connecting the dots, you can really use that in any field. If you're really good at thinking about numbers, you can use that in any field. If you're really good about, going and collecting, information, we call research, so that other people can take that information and make better decisions. That's a whole field in itself. And so there's a lot of opportunities. What matters is that you capitalize on what you're good at and what your tendency, as a person, and the things that interest you. If you really hone those skills, there's a lot of ways you can apply it in the professional world.
So that's golden, right? Like that's exactly what we want our students to embrace. So I'm interested a little bit, you mentioned empathy, and that triggered for me that we are teaching design thinking in some of our classes, specifically our science classes, as part of the engineering process. Can you tell us a little bit about design thinking and how that applies to the process you use?
Yeah, this is a fascinating conversation for me, because design thinking is just how designers think. Okay. What they found is that, if we could really kind of break down how creative people think, they may be doing it intuitively. They may be just doing it because they're creative people and they're just good at solving problems through different means. If you can kind of understand and break that down and how they do that, and even if you're not a creative person or tradition, everybody's creative. If you're, but they found that anybody can essentially try to adopt that breakdown, that process, and if they apply it to anything, that you can get something really interesting out of it. And so that's essentially what design thinking is. It's just a term for, and there's many ways to break that down and quantify that, but design thinking is just trying to quantify how creative people think, and make sure that they understand, that you can learn lessons on how creative people think to solve problems and apply to anything. And so it's kind of like, the scientific method, right? Where there's kind of a format, and essentially design thinking is becoming a clearer picture these days, because more and more people have contributed to defining what design thinking is and how we can use it in the professional world. For me, design thinking is that I already think like a designer because I am a designer, but at the same time, I need to participate. A designer can't be a designer by themselves. They need, partners. They need people that are good at other things, like numbers and research and engineering and science and all of those things. And so, if I want to be the best at my job, and if other people in other fields are interested in learning about how I as a creative person solves problems, I need to be aware of my own process, not just do it because it feels intuitive to me. And that's something that is gaining traction in the business world, and it's allowing us to be more creative and have more impact.
Okay, so another part of the design process is sometimes if something doesn't work right, you have to make changes to it. Can you talk a little bit about that part for you, and give me some specifics? Like, what's something that you made that you were like, this is going to be awesome, and then it didn't work out the way you wanted it to?
Yeah, and maybe this is, more, I guess, anecdotal for me, as a designer, the type of designer I am is that I have a really hard time architecting something in my head and then knowing, it's the right answer, and then therefore it should work. Like, I'm not an engineer. I don't have all the principles and the physics knowledge and, the scientific knowledge to calculate stuff, and say, okay, the results should be, what the formula is. I'm the type of person where, I can dream something up, but and I know where I want to get to, but I have to start kind of getting things down on paper, and models and drawings and things like that, to start testing whether that's actually true or not. And in order to get to the end goal of, something awesome, something that works amazing and is beautiful, it's going to take me a while to get there, and it's going to take a lot of trial and error. And so what we say is, if you want to think like a designer, you have to be pretty, we call it iterative process, where, you can't be afraid to get it wrong. As long as you can quickly get to something, learn as much as you can on why it didn't work, tweak a few things, try it again. And if you can do that over and over again, you're going to eventually get to something really awesome and worthwhile. Let's be aware of that, and let's allow that to happen instead of being mad that it didn't work out the first time.
So you were having some struggles, and then you got connected with the EFE programs, right?
Yeah.
So love that part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell us, how did you bridge that part of your experience to where you are now?
Okay, so yeah, I struggled with my grades. I wasn't getting grades, and I think it had a lot to do with just not knowing, what is this all for, and EFE kind of answered that for me, like, hey, like there's value in what you do, so when I took an EFE course, it opened my eyes up, like, okay, there's values that there's value in what I do. How do I break into that? And they kind of connected the dots for me. Like, yeah, you have to probably go to art school. Well, how do you go to art school? You have to have a portfolio. I didn't have a portfolio. And so EFE class, helped me put together a portfolio. And if I didn't have one, well, these are the things that you should have in your portfolio. Let's figure out how to make that stuff. Let's spend the time doing it. So you have a portfolio. Hey, and then let's take this portfolio to some art classes or colleges and see if they will accept you, to see if you have something to work with. So we went to National Portfolio Day as a field trip, And Ms. Brown, she was very adamant about getting us exposed to tools that you would use as professionals. So she made sure to equip her classroom with real professional equipment, and so that we can actually get proficient in the tools that we should be using, or should be learning to be using. And so it connected a lot of dots for me on how do I even start to pursue a career, because I think up until then I really had no idea. Now, I didn't actually know product design was a thing until much later, actually, way after high school. Even after EFE, commercial design, it didn't quite feel like what I wanted to do. I was talented and I could do the things that a graphic designer could, or a comic book artist could do, or or a photographer could do, but it didn't quite feel right to me. And it wasn't until I was 24 that I found out about product design, or it's actually traditionally called industrial design. It just means design for manufacturing, or things that are made industriously. But when I did find out exactly what degree I should get, I knew exactly what to do. I called up the nearest art school. It was Kendall College of Art and Design in Grand Rapids, and I set up a portfolio review. I had a portfolio, and I knew exactly what to do to actually take that next step when I did find the right thing. So it wasn't that it immediately impacted me, but it would essentially open the doorway for much later on for me to find exactly what I wanted to do.
We interviewed someone recently, and she provided us this term dream team. And it sounds like Ms. Brown would be part of your dream team of people in your life that have helped you get to where you are and helped you find success. There are a couple other people that you want to name that are part of your dream team, and how did you connect to them?
Right. There's lots. I mean, lots of people that have helped me. I didn't do this by myself. And they are, not part of my dream team, because my dream team would be pretty much everyone in my life. But I guess the takeaway from that is that treat everybody with respect, and because you never know how they're going to contribute to your life. I can tell you that every opportunity that I've ever gotten to further my career it wasn't strategic. I didn't, it was because, we got along, or, we happened to see each other, and they, I was nice to them, or, or they had established a set of respect for me where they could feel comfortable recommending me, or, or helping me out, or, putting me in touch with other people that may give me opportunities. Every opportunity I've ever received was through my own network, right? And that's just, looking back, makes you really appreciate the relationships that you develop, and how how it really can lead to things. So yeah, I can say that, yeah, it really comes down to relationships, and that's something that someone I know that is always saying. It's really true. Yeah, every job that I've ever gotten, every project that I've gotten, anytime I was referred to someone that may have given an opportunity, is because of someone I knew. And so there's no such thing as, I mean, sometimes it works. I guess you kind of happen to run into an opportunity by chance, through complete strangers. Sure, they may happen, but most of the time I can guarantee you it's through the people you know, and the relationships that you foster with them.
Awesome. What else, Churu? What else do we want to, what knowledge do we want to drop on these kids in our interview today?
Oh man, yeah, I would say the future is bright, and opportunities are abound. When I was younger, you say, my dream is to become this, and someone may say, you can't make money off of that. You have to be a doctor, or you have to be a engineer, or like, I think a lot of those things are kind of, sure, you can, but I think these days, it turns out, if there's a particular thing you're passionate about, I wouldn't worry about how much money it's going to make you later, or whether you'll be, it's a thing. I guarantee you it could be a thing. If you got really good at it, someone will value that and be able to use it as a resource to help a bigger endeavor. Um, these traditional careers, they're a thing of the past, and not okay. They're not things of the past. They exist on top of the traditional careers. Um, we're finding out that, man, you can really, really be successful doing the things that you're most comfortable with, and most yourself with. Who would have thought that, a kid who grew up drawing, so that was my thing. I was always drawing, and people said, you're really good at drawing, and here's me, like, I'm good at math, I'm good at science, I'm good at, sure, but the reason I was good at drawing is because I loved doing it. Okay. And but I was always worried, is this the smart thing to do? It turns out, yes. Like, because I loved it so much, I got really good at it. And then turns out I can use that for all kinds of things, because I've gotten so good at drawing. I could literally draw these ideas that doesn't exist yet, and show people, to say, we should make this. And they say, I understand why that is a good idea, because you communicated it so well, not with words, but with a picture. And so therefore, here's I'm going to give you permission to do it. Yeah, for me, that was drawing. I could say, if you're really, if you really truly love connecting with people, and like, there's a place for you at a design firm. If you're really good with numbers, there's a place for you at a design firm, a creative company, because we need people like that, not just designers. So that's what I would say to kids is, if you feel like it's if you're doing something for the sake of something else, but it doesn't make you happy, it may not be the best thing. Give that thing that you're passionate about a try, or always keep that in your back pocket, because that may be the thing that actually makes you fulfilled.
I mean, that feels like our parting words that we want to end on, right, Churu? That's very inspirational. I feel like the part that you just said about communication for you is drawing is something that I love for our kids too, that there are non-traditional forms of communication. And I really appreciate that insight as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Churu, and telling us about product design and what life circumstances got you to where you are in your job. Thank you very much.